Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. In this episode, we're going to take a look at a piece by the amateur AI generative artist known as LezWolf. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the stylized portraiture here. We're going to talk about the retrowave art movement, and then we're also going to talk about the profound power of OpenAI's DALL-E II. So let's jump right into it. So whenever you first see this piece, you're met with kind of a portraiture format here, and we're face to face with kind of this futuristic wolf subject here. And you see, of course, the subject is accented primarily through this dark on light contrast there. You see this large kind of pink magenta type disc here, and so the darker form of our subject is the perfect definition to really, or the perfect accent to really define the subject to the densest degree possible. And so colors within this work, you see mainly the kind of a blue-purple foundation here. Very vibrant, very energetic, of course, in intense degrees of light whenever you see this piece. Really works to bring you in, and of course, with that aforementioned portraiture format, it is a very kind of intimate visual experience. It's very energetic and a very intimate visual experience at that. And so we also actually flow here. That's often associated with AI generative art. I do not have the original prompt that was created for this piece, but if we were to kind of guess it, we would probably say something like a wolf wearing visor in a retrowave theme in the style of a portraiture, maybe in a painting format as well. And so all of that really contributes to what we see here, of course. See the portraiture format, and like I said, that painterly flow, and that's really characteristic of kind of broad visible brushstrokes. And to keep in mind, this was created by AI, so it's not like a human is creating these broad brushstrokes. This is an AI's interpretation of that. I think that's incredibly interesting, how we have that kind of painterly flow, or those visible brushstrokes that we often associate with things like paintings. And so we see our subject here wearing this visor. Kind of reminds me of kind of a 90s fashion type of thing. Also reminds me of Back to the Future, if you guys have seen that as well. But regardless of that, it kind of feels like a really chill, cool, calm vibe here. Kind of we're just chilling right next to this wolf here. And I love the style. It's very neon, it's very retro, but it's also that retro futuristic type of feel as well. So I think that's also important to note. You do see a bit of deviation in the color here, primarily through that orangish red accent. Of course, you can see that a bit there as well. Could be like a light source coming over here. Oh, guess it doesn't want to draw. Never mind. Yeah, we'll erase that real quick. Hello. There we go. Bring that back. All right. So like I said, there's just a bit of variant in that kind of that orangish red accent there. And so we are looking at a piece that looks like it was inspired by the retrowave art movement. And so retrowave, there's a lot of ways you can approach it. It is normally rooted in, people often associate it with synthwave, which is a music genre or a type of music there. But retrowave is normally depicted with a kind of late 80s, early 90s type of feel. And it is very selective in kind of that renaissance there. So it revives a very certain style of the 80s and the 90s. And one of the things here is I see kind of that blue-pink color palette of Art Deco. And we also see, say, the Vaporwave Sun that's often associated with retrowave and vaporwave art. Of course, normally you see it with kind of some lines through it. I guess it doesn't want to draw. Normally we see it with those lines drawn through it, but you do see that massive magenta disc. That does remind me of that sun that we see in so many different retrowave pieces as well. And so, that's really interesting because when we're very selective about a time period, say the 80s or the 90s, and then we try and create an art movement or a modern art movement that's birthed or rooted within that, it's really interesting because we may even change the memories or even rewrite history in a way, because you take a very small section of a historical time period and then you make that the defining kind of artistic movement of that time. So if people 20, 30 years from now if retrowave art continues on this continual massive rise, then people are going to see the 80s through the lens of kind of that synth punk or that retrowave art style. So that's really interesting, kind of can rewrite history in the way that that is executed. I think that's really important to note. Very interesting one at that. And so this piece was created by OpenAI's DALL-E II. DALL-E II is incredibly powerful, very, very realistic. It can create almost anything, and it can even cross-reference data points. So of course, we have a wolf, we have kind of a style of a painting, we have the format of the portraiture, we have the colors within the work, and then we also have the style of the retrowave art movement. So with that in mind, we see 5 different kind of data points, whether it's style, format of appearance, whether it's subjects, elements within that, colors, everything in between. DALL-E II just combines all that with absolute ease, and it creates this very, very high resolution picture we see here. Of course, high resolution compared to other AI generative art programs, Wombo, Dream Diffusion, even Midjourney in a way. DALL-E II is incredibly, incredibly accurate, especially compared to those programs. And so this piece came from an original artist, LezWolf, and I believe they are a part of the furry fandom. And you see a lot of different pieces created by this artist, kind of creating this wolf that I believe he identifies with. And so the furry fandom or movement in general is very historic on the internet. It's been around very, very early, and we see the results of that here as well. And so LezWolf has access to the kind of private testing of DALL-E II, so that's incredibly, incredibly cool and really, really interesting. We're just blessed to be able to look at this piece here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. We talked a little bit about the retrowave art movement. We talked about the stylized portraiture, broad brush strokes, and also the color within this work as well. Hope you guys enjoyed. Go check out LezWolf's other pieces. He's doing a lot of different DALL-E stuff. It's clear he's very passionate about it, and he loves creating those AI generative pieces. Hope you guys enjoyed. My name is Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.